Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. All right, today we're going to talk about, is it your gut instinct firing off telling you something is wrong? Or is it your anxiety? How many of us have anxiety? I feel like most of us are raising our hand. We all struggle with this a little bit. And for some of us, it's a lot. And so when it comes to dating and it comes to relationships, when you've had bad relationships, or you've had several where your gut instinct was telling you something and you did ignore it and then you paid the price. And so then you think, okay, I'm not going to ignore that moving forward. I'm going to acknowledge when there's something that feels off. However, I want to give you some tools so that you can navigate this. So one, I'm working with clients right now that struggle with this specifically, where maybe you're in a relationship you're not sure about, or you are in the process of trying to be in online dating, which I know is hell and it's awful and it feels overwhelming. And it's, that is a whole thing in and of itself. But whether you are unsure about a person that you maybe are in a relationship with, or you're kind of in a relationship, you're like, I don't even know what this is, but I don't feel like it's even a real relationship yet. I can't stop thinking about him, or I'm obsessing. And you're trying to understand, okay, what is it that I'm seeing? What is it that I'm not seeing? And is it my gut instinct, or do I need to give this guy another chance? And how do I understand that difference? Because as somebody with high anxiety, I can tell you that in the beginning, and even, we've been together almost 2 years, I would say off and on, I really struggled with anxiety, and especially when you combine anxious attachment style. So let's talk about 3 things. Is it my gut instinct? Is it anxiety? Or is it my attachment style that is causing it? And of course, a lot of that insecurity and anxiety can come from that attachment style. A lot of us have anxious attachment style. So I'm just going to cover that piece where you feel you have the fear of abandonment. How many times have maybe you've told a guy, look, I have fear of abandonment, so you can't do that to me. And then you get a response from him that is not reassuring. And so then you have this sense of guilt, like, I don't know what to do, because now I feel like I can't even express the fact that I struggle here because that stresses him out. I remember expressing this to a guy, and he was like, I can't constantly reassure you. That's like too much work for me, even though he was the meanest and one of the most difficult relationships I've ever been in. Like, he wouldn't even give me that tiny bit just to say, hey, I struggle here, because he was a completely closed off kind of person where I had no idea what he was thinking. But in that relationship, I wasn't sure if what I was asking for was too much and what part that I should own. So right now, I'm running my series. This is it's called Level Up for Love. It's a mini academy series. And I'm doing a beta test with the quiz. The quiz is we're making it pretty, and we're adding all the graphics, and we're adding so much more to the quiz. So a lot is coming. However, right now I'm able to offer this to you in the way that you'll get immediate access to the quiz, which that'll be the first call we do, is you will have taken the quiz and I will give you a full analysis of what is actually going on with this guy. Are you expecting too much? Let's look at the results of the quiz and let's determine if you're onto something or if maybe this is your anxiety. And then how to navigate that moving forward. You might say, okay, Melissa, I know I have a gumball guy and I know I have issues, and you may even be afraid to talk to me about it. Man, if I can take that fear away from you, that this is not a scary experience. I want this to be a cozy, welcoming, non-judgmental experience. And I do get that as feedback on all of my customer testimonials, that they don't feel judged, because I look at this as a challenge. All right, how can I help you see this? Of here's what's going on, here's how it's making you feel, and then how can I help you build that confidence? Now, I realize, my love, you're not going to come to me with all this confidence. I don't expect you to be together. That's why you need help. And I needed this so bad when, years ago, when I had no idea what was going on. And so it is literally my obsession to help you through this and watch those light bulbs go off and the aha moments happen. So I want to give you a few tips of what is anxiety and what is your gut instinct. And if you join the Level Up for Love mini academy series, it's 4 calls one-on-one with me, and you have the option of adding Ian, my boyfriend, into I'm calling it the Borrow My Boyfriend call, where you can get his perspective. And he's new at this. So I'm saying that if you're not happy with that call, I'll give you a bonus call, which I feel like you'll be happy with it. But if for some reason you're like, I want another call with just you, that's completely fine. I just want you to walk away feeling like, okay, 1, I understand what kind of guy I'm dealing with. Number 2, I understand what might be my anxiety and my attachment issues versus something actually wrong with him or our relationship. Because that differentiator can save your relationship, and it saved mine. Had I listened to what I thought was my gut instinct, I would not be with the love of my life. I would have let go of a relationship that is fulfilling to me every single day. The idea of potentially having lost this is so devastating to me. And so I thought of this, and I was writing another post. I'm like, I need to do a podcast on this right now, because this is so important that we don't miss the signs of a good guy, because we are jaded and we are, it's a lot of PTSD, and I don't mean to overuse that term, but I really believe there is a lot of trauma that's happened from these past relationships, and we jump to conclusions, or all this false anxiety fires off, and we don't understand why. And so we're only left to try to interpret these things the best we can. And so I want to give you a way to look at this and say, okay, what is this behavior? So 1, you got to understand the behavior. And I was looking at the things that show you gut instinct saying something's wrong versus nothing's really wrong. It's just that PTSD. So here's how I did it with Ian. When I would feel the gut instinct, what I thought was the gut instinct telling me something was wrong, you know what it was a lot of times? Sometimes he just wasn't telling me everything about a certain topic or about his past. And it wasn't because something was wrong. I just could sense there was more to it. And it just wasn't the time to go into it. Previously with gumball guys, they just tell you everything. Like, I'm still learning about him today. And that is part of the discovery and learning about each other. But when we see someone maybe not telling us everything, that can trigger, there's something wrong. There's more to it. I'm going to find that out. And when I find that out, I'm going to be screwed. I remember thinking when we were first talking, like, what if he's married? What if he's married right now and he has a whole other family and he's just texting me like that? I mean, it's funny to me now, but I legitimately thought, like that could be a thing. Like what's actually happening? I mean, look, my sister and I, we have been professional Pinkerton agents. Like, I will look you up. I will stalk you. I will figure out your past. I will know. I will run a background check on you. I did run a background check on him, which he laughs about. He was like, he goes, I don't care. He goes, I'm glad that you did. You were being safe because, this girl didn't want to mess around. I was like, the dating days I wanted to bring to a close and I really liked him, but I was just like, I gotta know if there's some bullshit going on behind the scenes. And so I did do some of those things, which some people might think is crazy, but I do not think a background check is crazy at all. Let's figure out if some shiz was going on or is going on. Do you have a warrant for your arrest? Are you about to appear in court? Did you just recently get divorced and you're going to tell me that? Like, I don't want to find out major things like that later on in a relationship. So perfectly, I think within our rights to get some of those major things, like, is he a felon and he's not telling you that? I think it's important to know those things. And so go ahead and do it. So obviously, I did my background check and I got absolutely nothing back because, everything was fine, but I didn't, and it was good. It made me feel better to know those things. So sometimes we can calm the anxiety of that kind of stuff early on and go ahead and do it because yes, we can label ourselves anxious attachment and I'm okay with it. It's like, yep, because my parents were very turbulent in when I was young. They were not meant to be with each other. Their relationship was not stable. And so I didn't get that stability when I was young. I wasn't seeing my mom and dad securely attached to each other. So that made me feel like I was not in a safe environment. Therefore, I did not feel safe moving forward. And then I was also attracted to men that gave me, it was great in the beginning, and then something would happen, which they would pull away. There would be something wrong. So you have justification for having these gut instincts. You have justification for feeling the way you feel. So I don't want you to now start thinking, okay, well, I have anxious attachment. I do have anxiety and I do have trouble with this stuff. So there's something wrong with me. It's like, no, I want you to know that like you have experience here. And a lot of times you are going to pick up on something and you do know that it is wrong. So let me just give you a few examples. If you're suspicious of something, then what evidence can you provide? And I could never provide evidence. It's just like the worst investigator ever. I would have ideas in my head, but could I point to anything specific he said or did? No. So here's also where he would come through. He was consistent every single day. So if your gut instinct is firing off and he's behaving inconsistently, then you have something. It's like we were long distance, right? So we were texting and calling each other, but he would call me every single day. He was doing the same stuff every day. He was planting trees and doing errands and working, and it was just like the same stuff. And sometimes I wouldn't hear from him for a few hours. I feel so stupid saying this, but you know how it is when you're on the other end and you're like, what's happening? I don't know. And sometimes they would go to a tree farm. He was in Canada at the time. They would be at a tree farm picking up trees. And then I would be a wreck for hours thinking something was wrong. And then he'd be like, hey, babe. He would send me all these pictures of all the trees they picked up. And I would sit there and have to deal with myself. Like, okay, now you had all this fear and anxiety. And now he's provided you with the evidence that that wasn't true. And I had to go through this, I will admit, over and over again, because look, when you really like somebody, there's a lot on the line. That impending heartbreak and doom is very scary. And so you're dealing with anxiety. I was dealing with the anxiety and the unknown and the fear of, oh God, if I do this and I really fall for this guy, I don't want to get gut punched. Okay. So One thing he always gave me was consistency. He was always available. He was always reliable. And as I consistently learned about his values, those also continually aligned with mine. So then it's like, how often are you seeing them? Or does their family know about you? Are you gradually becoming more and more a part of their life? Now, this doesn't have to happen overnight. Especially if you do have a distance issue, it can't happen overnight, but it will be consistent. And there were times when I told him I would get scared, and he would always take the time to reassure me. Everything is okay. Sometimes he'd call me out and say, "Babe, you're making things up in your head. You're literally manufacturing things. There's nothing wrong." And sometimes I would just be, a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like sometimes I would take an idea and I would run with it a little bit. However, I always knew that this was my issue. And so I want to help you understand that if you have a great guy and you can take ownership and you can say, okay, this is where a lot of times I would share with him, this is where my brain would go. This is how I've had you married with another family, is sneaking around calling me. And, he would laugh and he'd be like, okay, well, here's how that's not true. And over time, I would relax. Now, this wasn't happening every day or every week. Like a lot of times, girl, you gotta lock your shit down. Like I would go to this would be my coping. And I got through this hundreds of times without telling him anything. Especially in the very beginning, as we established our relationship, this became less and less. But my method would be go to the journal and write it out. And I don't care if you write out the same thing every day, but then check yourself. Is there consistency? Is there availability? Is there reliability? Are my values aligned? Am I always able to get a hold of him? Is he reaching out to me regularly? And also, how is the mood? How is his, I always noticed with Ian, it was just a consistent, happy to hear my voice. There wasn't, he didn't seem moody or off or all of a sudden, not being the same. He was always the same guy. Always. Still is. And so over time, I had to, I don't want to say adjust, but I just got more and more comfortable. And I have read that people with anxious attachment can be cured over time by a consistent, secure partner. But we don't want to put our consistent, secure partner through a roller coaster because that is very taxing on them. And I will admit, sometimes it was taxing, but I worked through it. So I'm just telling you, yeah, I can be Melissa Ledger Gumball Love and I can see the gumball guy, but when you don't have a gumball guy and then you're having all the feelings and then you're dealing with I believe when you fall in love, and I've seen this in other research, when you're single, you're not dealing with these fears. You're in control of your life. It's just you're in your apartment or your house and you've got your cat, your dog, your dogs or cats or animals and your friends or your family. You're not jumping off that cliff. You're not feeling your heart drop and fall into the hands of somebody else. And so when those things come up, it brings out anxiety that, wasn't there before. So it's also important not to beat yourself up when you're having these feelings, because if you are falling in love or you want to fall in love and you're at that point where you're trying to hold yourself back, there is that point. I remember being at that point with Ian where I was trying so hard to not feel so strongly because I wasn't 100% sure how he was feeling. And I was so afraid to just let go. However, when I look back, I realize I had already let go. It was just a matter of hoping and praying it was reciprocated on the other end, because it was like I'm holding on preparing for the pain of rejection. And so that is a lot of where your anxiety is coming from. So anxious attachment is I'm afraid you're going to leave. So I'm just looking at some things that I've looked up here. It says most behaviors associated with anxious attachment stem from insecurities and fears of rejection or abandonment. So I want you to ask yourself, when you're feeling like, is this my gut instinct? Then I want you to check one thing. Is it my gut instinct? Or am I processing fear of abandonment? Am I afraid of rejection right now? And that fear of rejection is firing off anxiety, which is also making me translate this into something's off or something is wrong. So we all adjust to our tempo the tempo of communication in every relationship. I talk a lot about this with one-on-one clients because it's like when you're trying to tell somebody, we were talking this much and now he's not responding as quickly. And what's going on? That's a good indicator of something might be up. That's where your gut instinct could be correct because that there again, it's inconsistency in communication. A person who's healthy and they're genuinely interested in you will be consistent in the way they communicate with you. You're not going to be sitting around waiting. They're not going to ignore you for periods of time. And ignoring you or being consistent with you is all determined in what is normal for the two of you as a couple. And we all know when it changes. And look, a lot of times it can be more rapid fire in the beginning because it's all exciting, but there's always hey, I'm at work right now, but let's continue this later, or I'm jumping into a meeting. I'll get back with you in a couple of hours or whatever. There's always a letting someone know, hey, I'm here, or I'm going to be gone for a while, because they have respect for themselves and for you, and they want to make sure you're not sitting there waiting. They're going to be thinking about that. And so if they're not thinking about that and you feel regularly forgotten about, or all of a sudden you're in a conversation and they're gone for an hour and then they come back, once in a while, I guess it's okay. It really depends on the circumstances, but we all know when, I remember I used to think, am I overthinking this when I was online dating and talking to different guys in New York? And then it would be like, okay, this guy just went MIA. And then a lot of times I wouldn't even think about it for days. And all of a sudden that guy would come back and I would be like, okay. And then they usually do it again. If they're inconsistent, they're going to be consistently inconsistent. And that I want you to feel 100% confident, not trusting, because it's also rude. It's not considerate of your time. So I'm going to give you that list again: consistency, availability, reliability. Do his values align with you? Are you seeing more of him? Are you becoming more and more a part of his life? Are there always plans to see each other again? And are you getting to know the people that are important in his life? Those things will just gradually start to happen over time. And they might happen relatively quickly. With people that are healthy and they know what they want and they're excited, they're not afraid to move forward. However, this could freak you out as somebody who might be a little anxious. Like sometimes when a guy is willing to just, I would like you to meet my friends, that can make you as an anxious person start to get a little bit hesitant. And that's where, girl, we have to check ourselves. That's where you go write it out. Okay, what am I nervous about right now? Instead of trying to process everything, you cannot process everything through him. Okay? I mean, look, Ian is a nice enough guy. I probably could have done that to him, where I processed everything through him. And he probably just would have dealt with it because he's just that nice of a guy. But I'm not going to do that to him because I've done enough work on myself where I would go into my journal and I would write it out. And so many times I would sit in fear, or I would have that anxiety, and then I would watch him prove me wrong over and over again. And that's where I built a lot of confidence without saying a word to him. Never said a word to him. I would write it out if I felt nervous or anxious. And then the moment would pass, I would be proven wrong. And then each time it became less and less of a problem. And so, hey, I wish I could tell you that this is a one and done deal, but it's just these traumas go deep. I catch myself even feeling shame for having that fear at all. Isn't that funny how we think, oh, well, what is wrong with you? Why do you keep having that fear? I don't know, because trauma runs deep and it's weird and it's not something we can see. It's not an injury that we can go, oh, well, there's the cut and there's how deep it goes and there's all the other things that it affects. And oh, that's why I'm still having this symptom over here. If it was physical, it'd be so much easier. But the fact that it's emotional, it goes deep, it can go all the way back or does go all the way back to childhood. Those kinds of things are what make it so much more challenging. Sometimes I would just Google even the signs of anxious attachment. And then it's like, is this what I'm feeling? Or is it my gut instinct? And because those gut instinct memes on Instagram be like, trust your gut, that bitch knows what's up. Maybe she doesn't know what's up because maybe she's, masquerading as anxiety. And we really have to get control of that. The gut instinct is connected to your vagus nerve, not your Las Vegas nerve, but your VAGUS, the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve I like to describe is, if you've ever seen the show Terminator, remember when the Terminator would come across somebody and that scan would happen of dangerous, not dangerous, who is this person, their height, their weight, you would see the Terminator through his eyes and you would see that scan and analysis. And we've been doing that for our entire lives. We come up against somebody on the street and we can assess really quickly, is this person dangerous or is this person safe? Okay, you've been doing this your whole life. You've gotten that feeling that you need to hurry up and run to your car in the parking lot because somebody behind you looks weird. Or I used to use this analogy in New York City. If the guy or girl, but usually it was a guy, if there was a guy on a street with me and he didn't have a destination, he didn't look like he had anywhere to go, and the way he would be walking would tell me, okay, I need to switch sides of the street because this guy has nothing better to do but then strike up a conversation with me and I'm by myself and this is not good. If he's not safe, then I need to be able to run. So we've had this happen to us, okay? So now I'm going to go into a weird area, but I want to stay with me. I grew up in Nebraska, right? So it's a lot of white people here. Saw white people growing up. I didn't see a lot of diversity growing up. And so a lot of people who maybe they're racist, but I think a lot of people who you might think are quote unquote racist, they just haven't been around people that don't look like them. And so then they think that if you don't look like me, maybe you're dangerous. And it's so dumb, but as I've left New York and I've come back and I listen to different people and how they assess it, I just think, wow, you just never had friends that don't look exactly like you and don't have the exact same lifestyle. You get out in suburbia in America and a lot of people live the exact same life. So they don't understand that just because it's different doesn't mean it's dangerous. Okay? So I want you to have this example because maybe the guy you're dating, he's different, but is it bad? You know what I mean? Just because it sounds a little different and he acts a little different, is it consistent? Is he available? Is he reliable? Is he sharing your values? Do you really have any evidence to show that he's different or that it's bad? So I'm challenging. So if I'm using this example, if I take somebody who's been in the same place and they've been around the same people, I can tell you people that are in my hometown here in Omaha, they think New York is really scary. And they would think, oh, Melissa, I don't know how you live there. It's so scary. When I lived in New York and I would think, I'm not scared at all because I didn't have to look at people. It didn't matter what you looked like. It just mattered if you had a destination. I could look down the street and I could just see people that were off. If you've lived in a big city, it's the person in the subway that just ain't quite all there. And I could immediately anticipate who was going to try to talk to me. And so this is why New Yorkers don't talk to anybody. They don't smile at people, because the second you do that, you open yourself up to a bunch of weirdos that are going to ask you for money, follow you around, talk to you. And it can be scary when you're by yourself, because now you have somebody that has fixated on you, and then you got to get away from them. And so that can be a very tense situation. Okay. So I'm giving you these parallels so you can kind of understand that, yes, when you talk about gut instinct and you talk about, okay, I feel like my gut instinct is firing off, but is it really accurate? Is what I'm seeing really scary, or is what I'm seeing different than what I'm used to? And I want you to have a little bit more information to give it. Like if I brought somebody from my hometown and they saw someone who was speaking a different language and they don't hear, let's like they saw a Russian guy and they grew up thinking that Russians were scary people because all they knew were people that looked like them and then the scary Soviet Union. I've actually had conversations because all my dance teachers were Russian and Georgian, and they would look at me like, I'm talking to some older people, but they would look at me like, oh my God, you were talking to Russians? That was scary to them. And I would just laugh because, these were some of my favorite people on planet Earth. And so like, is it scary or is it just unfamiliar? Okay, so I'm challenging the gut instinct. Not that I want you. If you feel that urge to run to your car and get your keys out, like do it. Like those things, I think we feel fear because we need to feel fear. And I don't want you to not acknowledge it, but I also want you to, if you are in a relationship with a good guy, and this is really the whole point of this conversation, I don't want you to falsely be afraid or accuse him of something he's not even doing because you don't recognize his behavior, because you probably won't recognize his behavior. I just thought there's no way a guy just shows up every day consistently. I don't really think I was thinking of it, but it just was like, when you're so used to something bad happening, then your anxiety is way overpowering your gut instinct. And so as you can relax that and just give yourself a different perspective, you're going to have a much healthier approach. And this is what I want to help you do. However, when you take the quiz for your guy, which is I'm offering to my clients right now because it's taking quite a bit longer than we thought for the quiz. And so I'm offering this to my clients that work with me one-on-one. You'll take the quiz and I'll be able to tell you, okay, are there red flags you need to be watching for? And if there are red flags, what categories are they falling into? What patterns of behavior are you seeing and overlooking? Is it anxiety or is it gut instinct? And gut instinct is like, it's legit. So that's the thing that I struggled with the most, because when you're with a gumball guy, he will gaslight you and tell you that you're being crazy. He will tell you that you're jumping to the wrong conclusions. He will tell you, and he will get angry. So I remember whenever I would get too over the top, or I would get a little bit overly anxious, Ian would never get upset with me. He would just say, okay, but you're making that up. That is not true. And then he would just stop there. And I found myself wanting like more of an explanation, but when it's just not true, you want him to like, no, try harder, convince me. And that was the one gumball I kind of identified with a little bit, because I was feeling like, yeah, I want you to convince me you're not like the others, which is not his job to do. And so we cannot expect people to convince. But that anxiety, And the anxiousness in my attachment was really kind of seeking that out more. But I was able to talk about that. And that's what I want to get you being able to talk about. Okay, I have anxious attachment. These are those signs that I might feel like this is where you're a Miss Independent. I'm independent. I don't need anybody. That's your anxious attachment talking. I know, right? I'm independent. I don't need anybody. Yes, you do. You need people. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but you need a man. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here listening to this podcast. It is a need. Now, do you need him for survival? No. But you need him emotionally. You need him as a partner. You need him. Okay? And he'll be excited that you need him because guess what? He needs you. There's a guy out there that needs you. Can he survive without you? Yes, we're not talking about survival. We're talking about needs that we have, that we want to have met. And so when you look at it like, I need this, you can say I'm dependent on somebody else, and that's okay. I know it seems like I don't want to say that. I've been single. I've been single for so long I was single for so long. See how I'm still like even saying I'm single, but like, I know that life so well and I had control over that. But you've heard me say in other podcasts, I need this. So and just that feeling or just saying that makes us feel anxious because then we're giving over control to someone else. But that giving control over is sort of, in a weird way, it's taking control because it's acknowledging what you actually really want anyway, pretending that you want to be in control of everything all the time and you never want to lean on somebody and trust somebody with your heart. It's a lie you would be telling yourself, right? And so just giving in to the idea that you need this, you want this, and you're willing to do what it takes to have a healthy relationship in your life. And so this is the system. Look, girl, if you're with me until now, we should work together because when you take the quiz, I can tell you what kind of gumball guys you're attracting. And then I can tell you what behaviors in him are drawing you in. What's sucking you in? What are those patterns? How can you identify those way early on? And also diagnosing it from the past. So essentially, call one is a diagnosis. Who is this guy? What is he doing? What's actually going on? And you don't have to leave him. It's just becoming a little bit aware. Like, is this severe? Is it not so bad? Is it how many things do I need to be aware of? Because if you're not aware of them, you're not going to change anything. It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You're not going to get different results. And so do you want different results? Do you want to be able to say, okay, I can recognize this? And also, so call 1 and 2 are around those. And then call 3 is where you sit down with Ian and I, and you can ask us all the questions. You can ask us any question you want because we're not afraid. So whatever, I guess if you think of something, I don't even know what you could ask. You can ask us anything. So, what we want you to feel from that third call is talking to us as a couple and seeing what healthy looks like. And I also just want you to hear Ian speaking about these things because just watching a guy talk this way and the way that he does, because it's not like me, but it's just hearing how a man sounds and being able to ask questions and understanding that and he's just one guy, right? And we're not using our relationship as a standard by any means because your guy is going to be different than my guy. It's going to be different than your friend's guy. There's a reason you're looking at your friend's marriage going, yeah, I don't want that because that's not the guy you're supposed to be with. When you meet your guy, it'll all make sense. Okay. So I want to give you the ability to take back control of your emotions and give you the ability to look at it from that 30,000 foot view and say, okay, is this insecurity? Is this fear? Is this fear of abandonment? Or is this really your gut instinct firing off? Let's talk about that. So we could do that in the first call. You'll take the quiz, we'll talk about the quiz, and then we'll do the diagnosis of, all right, here's what's going on. So I'm taking a limited number of people to round out 2021, and we're going to do some different things in 2022. But if you want to go into the holidays feeling great, you want to feel clear, you want to know, okay, I know who this is. I know what's going on. I can identify the patterns. Identifying the patterns gives you so much power. I should talk about this more, but I want you to be careful with these powers because you're going to see it. You're going to see this guy so clearly, especially if it's an ex or somebody you really need to forget about, but you can't. Once you can identify the patterns, it's super tempting to then tell him what they are. And when you know what they are and you tell him, it can really bring out, if he's a violent guy, it can bring out the violent because you're going to see it for exactly what it is. And it's going to be like, an ache and a pain that you have. And all of a sudden the doctor's like, oh yeah, you just have XYZ. And you're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. So I don't have a tumor growing in my stomach, or I don't, we create all these things. And when you get the actual real diagnosis, all the symptoms align and you get it. And you're like, oh, I feel so relieved. And then it's like something simple to fix it. That's kind of what this is like. I'm going to give you a diagnosis. I'm going to tell you what kind of guy he is. I'm going to tell you what the attention he craves. I'm going to tell you how he gets it and how he gets you to give it to him. And that way you're going to walk away with, okay, now I understand. And then you'll be able to look at anxiety and gut instinct and anxious attachment or whatever attachment style you feel like you have. I hate calling it the disorder, but really it's not an orderly, it's not an orderly attachment. It's a little disorderly. So, however, it's curable. We can get through it. It's not something we have to just live with, and we can understand, is this my PTSD or are you triggering it? Is he triggering these things? This is not a good partner for you. This is not going to be healthy for you. I've realized too that, there's a lot of guys out there, but, I need all the things that Ian has. Like, he gives me what I need to feel secure, to feel, he encourages me in my work and pays attention to the little things. And there's just a lot of stuff he does on a day-to-day basis. And I think, there's a lot of good guys out there, but a lot of good guys wouldn't do all of these things, and I need these things, and this makes me feel good every single day. And hopefully I reciprocate a lot of those things back to him. And so we're always communicating. He's an over communicator. I'm a big talker, right? But do you think I think I found my match? If not, he might be able to out talk me, but we're both big communicators. And so when I'm communicating something, he's able to do that. And so it's just stuff like that where I've thought about, this is not too much to ask for. And so it's really understanding, am I asking for too much? Am I being overly emotional? Maybe, but is that necessarily is that a relationship ending thing? No, it's not. You just have to understand who you are, what kind of guy you need, and then also be able to navigate your past, your PTSD, and just get the tools to separate those two things with insecurity, attachment, and your gut instinct, and being able to know and trust where it's coming from. So I hope this helps. I'm going to end here. Give me your feedback. I love hearing from you. If you have questions about the 4-part mini series, Level Up for Love. This is my new little mini academy that I'm offering. And I'm going to get everyone together as a group. Right now I'm taking you through one-on-one, but I will be offering group coaching with all the grads that have gone through the Level Up for Love Academy, and that group coaching will be available in 2022. So get in while the getting's good, get access to the quiz. I'm telling you, this is life-changing. You will never look at relationships the same way again. Like, this is going to solve your problems. I guarantee it. I've seen it happen over and over again. I don't have anyone that goes through this and says, Melissa, I'm completely confused and I'm still meeting gumball guys. No, the light will go on. You will see them super clear, and you will then be able to live your life in such a more peaceful place. And then you will just let God's timing take over of when you will meet that right person and when. So Until next time, I love you so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballlove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it, a 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough, you are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.